Hello and welcome to our first webinar on confirming health status. Let's start this session by talking about the reasons why it's important that when delivering leisure and health programs to care recipients that we obtain and interpret information about a client's health status and that we check the client's physical health. Well, some of the reasons that it's important to do this can include to be able to make referrals to the appropriate medical, dental, nursing or allied health professionals, to ensure that you structure suitable, healthy lifestyle activities which are appropriate to the individual's capabilities, to be able to identify any potential problems that could arise regarding an individual's health status, and to take into account factors which may have impacted on an individual's physical condition. For us to understand the physical health status of our clients, we need to first understand the structure of the human body. The human body is organised into various levels that begin at the very small and basic and come together to form the complete body with different body parts that all work together. Cells are the basic unit of the human body. All cells need food, water and oxygen to live and function accordingly. As cells use or metabolise food and oxygen, they give off carbon dioxide and other waste products. Cells are comprised of an outer covering called a membrane, a main substance called cytoplasm, a control centre known as a nucleus, and organelles which are dispersed within the cytoplasm. There are some main functions of the cells. These include respiration, ingestion, growth and repair, excretion, responding to stimuli, metabolism, and reproduction. Not all cells are able to be reproduced. Let's now look at the role of tissues within the human body. Groups of cells that form together form tissues. There are four main types of tissues. These include epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous tissue. The structure of the tissue reflects their function. Epithelial tissue. This tissue covers the body's surfaces and lines its cavities. Some specialise to form glands. The functions of epithelial tissue can include protection, absorption, secretion, excretion, surface transport, and reception of sensory information. An example of epithelial tissue is the skin. Connective tissue. This joins other tissues of the body together, supports the body and protects underlying organs. An example of connective tissue is bone. Muscular tissue. Muscles are composed of cells specialised to contract. An example of muscular tissue is skeletal muscle. Nervous tissue. Nervous tissue forms the brain, spinal cord and the nerves. The basic cells is called neurons. They specialise to receive stimuli and send impulses from one part of the body to another. An example of nervous tissue is the brain. Let's now look at organs. Groups of tissues come together to form organs. For example, the heart is made up of cardiac muscle and nervous tissue, held together with connective tissue and lined with epithelium. Each organ has a specific function. For example, the primary function of the heart is to provide circulation. Now we've looked at cells, tissues and organs, we're going to move on now and look at the different body systems. The first body system we're going to look at is the cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system is one of the major body systems. It transports oxygen, carbon dioxide, waste products, nutrients and hormones to and from various parts of the body. The cardiovascular system is made up of the heart, the blood vessels including arteries. These are the tubes that carry oxygenated blood away from the heart. The veins. These are the tubes that carry deoxygenated blood from the cells back towards the heart. And capillaries, the very small vessels that surround the cells of the body, and they facilitate the movement of oxygen and nutrients into the cells. and of course, the blood. Let's now look in more detail at the heart. The heart is a hollow organ about the size of a fist, and it's composed of special muscular tissue. This is known as cardiac muscle. In the average lifetime, the heart will beat 250 million times and will pump 340 million litres of blood. The heart is a pump that is controlled by an electrical current that is initiated in the brain. The heart is divided into a left and right side by a muscular wall, and it has 4 different chambers. The chambers of the heart are separated by valves, and these valves prevent backflow of blood. Let's now look at the role of blood. Blood is the connective tissue, a red bodily fluid made up of liquid, also known as plasma, and other cells. The body contains about 5 to 6 litres of blood, and 55% of blood is made up of plasma. The components of blood include plasma. This is a straw-coloured watery fluid in which blood cells are suspended. Plasma contains antibodies, plasma proteins, mineral salts and nutrients. We've also got within our blood cells. There are 3 types of blood cells. Erythrocytes, also known as red blood cells. These carry most of the oxygen and small amounts of carbon dioxide. Then we've got leukocytes, also known as white blood cells. These help to fight infection as they can attack microorganisms. And then we've got thrombocytes, also known as platelets. These are parts of cells which plug small leaks in the wall of blood vessels and initiate blood clotting. Let's now look at the flow of blood through the heart. Blood from the body flows to the superior and inferior vena cava, then to the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle, through the pulmonic valve to the pulmonary artery and out to the lungs. The blood picks up oxygen in the lungs and then flows from the lungs to the pulmonary veins, into the left atrium, through the mitral valve, to the left ventricle, through the aortic valve to the aorta, and then out to the rest of the body. The next body system we're going to look at now is the respiratory system. The respiratory system is composed of various structures and organs that ensure the body is able to exchange air between the lungs and the atmosphere. In order for us to survive, the body needs a constant supply of oxygen, which it obtains from air. The body also needs to be able to dispose of the waste product, which is known as carbon dioxide. The ingestion of oxygen and the discarding of carbon dioxide occurs through the process known as respiration, or also known as breathing. The structure of the respiratory system includes the nose, the nasopharynx, the mouth, sinuses, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, the lungs, and alveoli or air sacs. The process of respiration includes air entering the body via the nasal passages, where it's warmed, moistened and filtered. The air then passes down through the pharynx and into the larynx, and then on into the trachea. The air continues into both the right and left bronchi, and then into the lungs. In the lungs, the bronchi then branch into smaller bronchioles that each have air sacs, also known as alveoli, attached to them. The exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place at this level, between the alveoli and blood capillaries. Through this process, oxygen enters the bloodstream so it can be transported around the body. The next body system we're now going to look at is the musculoskeletal system. The musculoskeletal system consists of bones, muscles, ligaments and tendons. The functions of the musculoskeletal system includes protection and supporting internal structures and organs of the body, allowing movement, giving shape to the body, producing blood cells, storing calcium and phosphorus, and producing heat. We're now going to look at the skeletal system. The skeletal system is comprised of bones and joints and provides the basic supporting structure of the body. This consists of the human skeleton. Do you know how many bones make up the skeleton? The human skeleton is made up of 206 bones. Bone is a dry, dense tissue composed of calcium, phosphorus, organic matter and water. The centre of bone contains marrow, where blood vessels, fat cells, and tissue for manufacturing blood cells are also found. A joint is an area where two or more bones are in contact with each other. Joints allow for movement. The bones forming the joint are held together by ligaments. Let's now look at the muscular system. The muscular system allows us to move. The human body is composed of over 500 muscles that work together to facilitate movement. The major function of the muscular system is to produce movement of the body, to maintain the position of the body against the force of gravity, and to produce movements of structures within inside the body. Our tendons attach our muscle to the bone. Movement occurs when muscles contract or when they shorten, pulling the bones with them. Muscles work in pairs. When one shortens, the corresponding muscle will lengthen. The next system we're going to look at now is the endocrine system. The endocrine system is composed of glands and hormones. Hormones are secreted by the endocrine glands directly into the bloodstream. Hormones have many different roles. These can include growth, maintaining blood sugar level, metabolism, reproduction, as well as other different functions such as regulating sleep cycle. The body contains many different types of hormones that are designed to regulate the body's activities. Each hormone is specialised to target a certain type of cells. It kind of works like a lock and key method. The hormone will only work if it comes into contact with the targeted cell. Hormone levels circulating in the body are adjusted throughout feedback to the glands. Glands are located throughout the body. Here are some common glands that you'll come across in the human body. The pituitary gland. This is known as the master gland. It's located behind the brain at the base of the frontal lobe of the brain. It's divided into two main parts, the anterior and the posterior pituitary gland. Each part secretes specific hormones that affect the action of the glands within the body. Another common gland is the hypothalamus. This lies above the pituitary gland. It releases hormones that either stimulate or inhibit the release of hormones by the pituitary gland. Another gland is the thyroid gland. This is found in the neck, right near the Adam's apple. It produces a hormone known as thyroxine. Thyroxine regulates growth and metabolism. The thymus lies in the chest, above the xiphoid process, and it plays a part in maintaining a body's immune system. The parathyroid gland lies in the thyroid capsule area. Parathyroids produce a hormone that regulates the phosphorus and calcium levels within the blood. Another common gland you'll hear about is the pancreas. This produces insulin and glucagon, which help regulate glucose levels or blood sugar levels within the body. So for people that have diabetes, often there's an issue with their pancreas not producing enough insulin. Then there's the adrenal gland. This lies on top of the kidneys. It secretes a hormone that helps the body to grow and adapt to stressful situations. Another common gland that you hear a lot about is the ovaries, found in females. These secrete estrogen and progesterone. The rise and fall of these hormones determine the menstrual cycle, and they're important in the release of the egg and the maintenance of a pregnancy. The testes found in males produce testosterone, which cause the production of sperm. So as you can see, we've got all different glands around our body, and the hormones that they produce have a drastic impact to the way in which the body regulates its processes. The next body system we're going to look at now is the digestive system. The human body needs energy to be able to perform all vital functions that are part of living. The digestive system converts the food that we eat into a form that can be processed and used as energy for the activities that are carried out by the human body. The type of food that we eat has an effect on the way in which it's processed by the body and the amount of energy that the food produces. As food passes through the digestive system, it's broken down both physically and chemically into a form that can be absorbed into the bloodstream and used for energy. Those particles that are unable to be digested are then excreted in the form of feces. Let's now look in more detail at the process of digestion. Digestion begins in the mouth, where food is chewed until it reaches a consistency where it can be swallowed. The tongue assists in this process of chewing and manoeuvring the food into a position where it can easily be swallowed. The salivary glands produce saliva, and this begins the process of chemical digestion. Saliva also moistens food, which helps it to be swallowed more easily. Teeth break down the food into smaller particles and therefore make it easier for digestion. The pharynx. This is the passage that allows both food and air into the body. The esophagus. This is the tube that leads from the mouth into the stomach. When food arrives in the stomach, it remains for 3 to 4 hours. Throughout this time, it's further broken down by churning within the stomach. Powerful gastric juices are also secreted by cells in the stomach. This contributes to a chemical digestion. The food at the end of this process ends up in a semi-liquid form known as chyme. The food then moves, or the chyme should I say, then moves through the intestines. Digested material is moved through the intestines via a process of wave-like muscular contractions. This is known as peristalsis. The process of digestion is complete in the small intestine. At this stage, the nutrients that the body needs are absorbed through the walls of the small intestine. The waste materials then move into the large intestine, where water is reabsorbed into the body, thereby changing the chyme into a more solid form, ready to be excreted through the rectum. Throughout this whole process, the liver is also vital when it comes to digestion. The liver is a large gland that is divided into 4 lobes. It carries out mainly vital metabolic functions such as manufacturing bile. Bile is used to break down fats, helping to maintain blood glucose levels, producing proteins that have a role within blood clotting, and storing iron derived from food. Also storing other vitamins such as vitamin A, D, E and K that have been extracted from food that was eaten. The final important role when it comes to liver is heat production. Due to the high amount of metabolic activity that occurs within the liver is the main heat procuring organ of the human body. Another important organ within the digestive system is the gallbladder. The gallbladder concentrates and stores the bile that's produced in the liver. It then releases the bile when it's needed for digestion after you've eaten a fatty meal. We did speak briefly before about the pancreas and its role when it comes to producing insulin. So let's talk a little bit more about the pancreas now and its role with digestion. The pancreas is what is called both an endocrine and an exocrine gland. It produces pancreatic juices that contain enzymes. These play an important role in the chemical digestion of our food. And as mentioned earlier, it also produces insulin and glucagon directly into the bloodstream, which helps with maintaining blood sugar levels. The next system we're going to look at within this session is the urinary system. The urinary system is made up of the kidneys, ureters, bladder, and the urethra. The kidneys are a pair of organs that are found within our abdominal cavity. They are located against our back muscle on either side of our spine. Within the kidneys, we have nephrons. The nephron is the basic working unit of the kidney. Blood enters the nephron under pressure and passes through the structure of the nephron to filter. The kidneys produce 1 to 1.5 litres of urine on average in a 24-hour period. Many factors can affect the production of our urine. These can include our age, illness, the amount of and the type of fluids we're ingesting, the amount of salt, caffeine and alcohol that's in our diet, and any medication that we also take. The ureters. These are two tubes that run from the kidney to the bladder. Urine is conveyed through the ureters by peristalsis and also by gravity. The urine then arrives in the bladder. The bladder is a hollow sac situated towards the front and the lower part of our abdomen. The bladder's main role is to store urine. Does anyone know the average bladder capacity? The average bladder can hold between 400 and 600 mils. Once the urine leaves the bladder, it goes through the urethra. In the female, the urethra is about 10 centimetres long, and in males, urethras are about 20 centimetres long. Let's now look at the functions of the urinary system. These include removing waste from the circulatory system, playing a part in the production of red blood cells, assisting in the regulation of blood pressure, and maintaining balance of bodily fluids. Excretion of urine, known as urination, is the process of emptying the bladder. As the bladder begins to fill with urine, a nerve impulse carrying the message to the spinal cord that the bladder is filling. The spinal cord then sends a message back to the bladder, advising it to contract and the sphincter to relax. This is a reflex that gives rise to the urge to urinate. The body system we're now going to look at is the reproductive system. Let's first look at the female reproductive system. The female reproductive system includes the following reproductive organs: the vagina, the womb, known as the uterus, fallopian tubes, and the ovaries. These organs and structures give females the ability to conceive. They do this by producing eggs that need to be fertilised by sperm. The uterus then provides a place for the baby or fetus to grow and develop until it's ready to be born. The male reproductive system includes the following organs: the penis, the testicles, the epididymis, the vas deferens, and the prostate gland. The purpose of these organs and the male reproductive system is to produce, maintain and transport sperm and semen, to discharge sperm within the female reproductive tract, to produce and secrete male sex hormones that are responsible for maintaining the male reproductive system. Let's now look at the integumentary system. The integumentary system refers to the skin, sweat and oil glands, hair and nails, which together make up the biggest organ within the human body. The main function of the skin includes protection, temperature regulation. The skin does this with its abundant supply of blood. For example, when we become to feel really hot, the blood supply rushes to the surface of the skin and the heat is lost through radiation. That's why when you feel really hot, often your skin looks flushed or pink. The skin also regulates temperature by perspiration. When we perspire or sweat, heat is lost through evaporation. The skin also gathers sensory information, as the skin has millions of nerve endings which allow us to respond to sensations of pain, heat and also cold. The skin also excretes excess water and waste products, and it's also responsible for the manufacturing of vitamin D. Let's now look at the immune and the lymphatic systems. First of all, we'll look more closely at the immune system, and we'll then move on to see how they work together. The immune system is a complex system of cells and responses that recognises something as being foreign and tries to remove it. For example, microorganisms, a foreign tissue within the body, or irregular body cells, such as cancer. Immunity is best understood as our line of defence against any invaders. These are some of the barriers that the human body has to disease and to illness. Intact skin, saliva and tears. You know when you get something in your eye and it irritates your eye and you start to tear or cry? That's the body's way of trying to get that foreign object out of your eye. Reflexes, for example, coughing or sneezing when you have something that goes up your nose, or vomiting if you have something like food poisoning. Inflammation and fever, protective proteins that are produced in response to viruses or bacteria entering the body. We have natural killer cells known as lymphocytes. And we also have within our body phagocytes. These are special white cells that are designed to eat any potentially dangerous pathogens. Immunity can either be natural or active. Natural immunity is when an individual has the ability to ward off pathogens, and this is influenced by the person's state of health, their nutritional status, and their emotional response to stress. Active immunity occurs as the body builds up resistance to pathogens that have been introduced through exposure or through an immunisation or vaccination. Let's now look at the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is closely connected to the circulatory system. It consists of additional set of vessels through which some of the tissue passes before reaching veins and entering the blood. The function of the lymphatic system is to remove foreign substances and waste products from the blood and the lymph. This includes dead cells, bacteria, viruses, and even cancer cells. Another function of the lymphatic system is to fight disease and to try and maintain balance with the amount of fluid within the tissues. The lymphatic system comprises of lymphatic capillaries, lymphatic vessels, lymphatic nodes, lymphatic tissues, and lymphatic ducts. Lymphatic nodes are found in the axilla, or in our underarm, in the neck, and in the groin. The lymphatic tissue found in the spleen, the tonsils, and the thymus. It's in the lymphatic tissue that lymphocytes are formed. Let's now look at the final system we're going to discuss in this session, the nervous system. The nervous system is responsible for coordinating the body's activities. It controls the maintenance of normal functions and the body's ability to cope in stressful situations. The nervous system is divided into two main parts or two main divisions. These include the central nervous system. This is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. The second division is the peripheral nervous system. This connects the central nervous system to the rest of the body. The peripheral system is then divided into two sections. The autonomic nervous system. This controls automatic functions of the body. It also controls our ability to fight or flight when we're put in an emergency situation. Say, for example, if you're walking down a dark alley at night time and you hear someone creep up on you, it's the autonomic nervous system that's going to decide if you're going to turn around and fight that person that's creeping up on you, or if you're going to flight and run away from them. The other division of the peripheral nervous system is the somatic nervous system. This allows us to consciously or voluntarily control our skeletal muscles. For example, how quickly we would like to walk or run. Let's now look in detail at the brain. The brain is a mass of nerve tissue. It's made up of grey matter, which is mainly nerve cells, and also white matter. The brain is divided into the cerebrum. This is the largest part of the brain. It's the centre for thought and intelligence, and this is divided into the left and right hemispheres. Then we have the cerebral cortex. This is the outside of the cerebrum. Its functions include learning, reasoning, language, and memory. Then we have the cerebellum. This lies below the cerebrum at the base of the skull. Its functions are to control the voluntary muscles, balance, and muscular tone. Finally, we have the medulla. This controls things such as heart rate, breathing, swallowing, and coughing. We're now going to look at the four lobes of the brain. The frontal lobe. Frontal lobe is found at the front of the brain. The main functions of the frontal lobe include conscious thought, concentration, judgment, attention span, problem solving, organisational skills, critical thinking, ability to feel and express emotion, ability to show empathy, and memory for habits and motor activities. The next lobe is the parietal lobe. The main functions of the parietal lobe include visual attention, touch, facial recognition, understanding the time, goal-directed movements, and manipulation of objects. The next lobe of the brain is the occipital lobe. Some of the occipital lobe's functions include receiving visual information and interpreting colours, shapes, and distances of things. The final lobe of the brain is the temporal lobe. The main function of the temporal lobe includes memory and ability to learn new things, receiving and understanding auditory messages, understanding spoken language, controlling how things are organised and categorised, and visual perception. The spinal cord plays a vital role when it comes to our nervous system. The spinal cord is 45 centimetres long and extends from the brainstem down to our second lumbar vertebrae. It acts as a message pathway between our brain and the rest of the body. Nerves convey impulses from the brain that travel through the spinal cord down to the various organs of our body. When the impulses reach the appropriate level, they then leave the spinal cord and travel to the targeted organ to deliver the message. We are now going to look at the special senses. These include smell, taste, sight, hearing, and balance. The special senses play a significant role in collecting and transmitting external information from the environment to the brain. Our final topic in this webinar today is medical terminology. We need to have a good understanding of medical terminology when working with clients, so we can understand what's documented in their care plans and individualised plans, and understand what is discussed amongst other allied health professionals. Approximately 75% of medical terms are based on either Greek or Latin. Let's now look at the elements of medical terms. There's usually a root or a foundation of the term, a suffix, which will be the end of the word, a prefix, which is the beginning of the word, and sometimes a combining vowel like an O that links the root word to the suffix or to another root word. How do we read medical terms? You should read medical terms starting from the suffix and returning to the beginning of the word. So basically you want to read it backwards. For example, epigastric, E-P-I-G-A-S-T-R-I-C. Let's start at the end, I-C. This is the suffix meaning pertaining to. Gastr is the root word meaning stomach. And then epi, E-P-I, is the prefix meaning above. So epigastric means pertaining to the stomach or above the stomach. There are some rules when you're using combining vowels such as O's. Let's have a look at that now. If we use a word such as gastritis, the root word is gast or gastro. The suffix is itis, meaning inflammation. So we wouldn't want to include to still have the O from the gastro and then add the itis to the end. It would be incorrect. Instead, we want to drop the O and then just add the itis at the end. Another example, gastroenterology. The root word is gastro. The second root word is endro, and the suffix is ology. So it would be incorrect if we joined all those words together and we said gastroenterology instead of gastroenterology. One more example, endocrinology, using the combining vowel of O. The prefix is endo, the suffix is ology, and the root word is crin. So we would add the O in that situation to make it endocrinology. For further information on medical terminology or for anything we've discussed today, please refer to your additional reading material. Thank you for your participation in this webinar. Continue now by watching the National Geographic documentary, Inside the Living Body. I look forward to seeing you or discussing with you the next topic, which will be in webinar 2. Thanks for your time.